The Mexican 500 is an off-road motocross event held annually near Aylmer, Ontario. Or more appropriately, the Mexican 500 is an off-road motocross event held annually near Aylmer, Ontario. It is a very dodgy event, put together by very dodgy characters, and designed to be a fun event featuring dodgy technical woods riding. The entire track was lovingly built using imported child slave labour, so not surprisingly, there is a dodgy publication called Traction eRag that is heavily involved.
We're not sure which way to go here, but we're just following the arrows. We finished the very first day of a bit of basic coaching, and the more experienced riders are just doing this race loop now. So cool, so different to Australia. Loving it. I mean, look at these forests.
This famous Enduro draws riders from as far as 3 farmhouses away to rip up a Mennonite farm property. Here are some highlights of the 7-kilometre loop. Charles and his dodgy buddies have built a brilliant track on a remarkably small piece of land. The terrain in Ontario, in Canada, is flat as a pancake, but doesn't taste as nice, even with maple syrup. But the boys made excellent use of the steep drops down to the creek to have plenty of elevation changes. As mentioned in the last vid, these Mennonite guys are fast and do a lot of motocross. And being young, fit and fearless, they pick up on technical skills very quickly too. So they were constantly waiting for me to catch up on this loop, as I was so buggered after a full day of coaching.
Well, we've caught up with the rest of the pack now. At least I did it without putting a foot down.
And speaking of coaching, the negative comments continue, although mainly from Traction eRag staff.
That Australian boy making up those clinic work, I think he's a couple cans short of a 6-pack, I'm sure of it.
This Enduro loop features lots of roots, ruts and the occasional rock to throw the front wheel out. Excellent practice for the challenging terrain in British Columbia the following week.
I believe this is what they call the highway.
The ride along the creek here is called the highway, an unpredictable section with holes, mud, ruts and roots.
Of course, I'm trying to do it without putting a foot down. That's 2 feet down now.
Although a lot of guys ride this sitting down, I find it better in the default standing body position, with the arse toward the rear of the bike. It keeps the rear wheel weighted for traction and also keeps the front end lighter.
I don't want to dig their track up.
So you are less disturbed by the front washing out in muds, ruts or those wet tree roots. Like a Gumby, I get stuck in two obvious spots, as I forgot to stop and look for the best lines first, something Chris Birch tried to drum into our thick skulls last year.
Oh, I slid into the same trap. Well, took a few minutes to get out of that bog hole.
Avoiding traps is especially important for us old farts.
Falling into every trap. This is one where you want to wheelie out.
We get tired super fast once we start lifting bikes out of holes.
No, everything's digging in. I can usually weight the seat and get out of that shit.
It's weird how you can feel as if you are so deep in the forest, then suddenly the track pops back up to the farmland before ducking into the forest again.
I didn't realise the loop then goes onto the motocross track here. Because these guys are good at this shit, whereas I just have no bloody idea what I'm doing. How do you ride a berm?
A motocross track. This is where the fearless young guys scream off, and I just plod along in their dust, wondering how on earth I'm meant to handle berms and jumps. Bugger the fast stuff. I love the slow technical tracks where there's less chance of snapping fragile old bones, and you can get your kicks from trying to ride it without putting a foot down. Throughout this Canadian trip, it was awesome to meet so many other guys in their 50s, getting back into dirt riding with the cross-training approach. They love the challenge, but also the safety aspect. Of course, there are plenty of young guys into this slower cross-training as well, but they are wanting to pick up the technical skills to complement the speed they already have from riding motocross or cross-country style enduro events. You might remember I finally got to ride the Beta RR250 for a few days recently and loved it. I'm getting to know the 250 even better now and still think it's an awesome bike. The reworked porting on the 2016 model provides excellent low-down power that often feels more like a 300. And even with my long legs, the lowest seat height of the Beta, along with that very predictable power delivery, make it a pleasure to ride in this terrain. Again, a quick plug, the Langs Offroad in Ontario. They not only lent me a Beta RR250 for 2 weeks, but they personally set up the suspension for me, and as expected, it worked a treat. We spent a bit of time hanging out at the shop, and it was great to see old-fashioned support and service for riders in in Ontario and beyond. It's all fun and games. Stick around for some more Canadian silliness in the next few vids.